Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Pam and today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little string of turtles. If you're interested in the pattern for this, you can find the written pattern available in my Etsy shop for Goodness Keepsakes, and without further ado, let's get started. All the yarn used here is a worsted weight yarn, and the H-hook will be all you need as far as hooks go, with the exception of using a larger hook to thread in the tails when doing the dirt part, which I'll show you later. So we're going to start with some kind of green yarn. It can be light green, dark green. You can even do a mix of them, or a variegated green yarn, that's fine. I start with a very simple slip knot. And chain 2. Now in the second chain from the hook, which is the first chain that you made, put 6 single crochets in there. I like to work over the tail whenever possible. And then slip stitch to the first single crochet to join. Next, we're going to continue with the chain 4. And we're going to repeat what we did here up here. However, we have a stem in the way, so we're going to be working 3 single crochets on this side of the stem and 3 single crochets on the other side of the stem. So in the second chain from the hook, put 3 single crochets. Bring your yarn around the front, not around the back, but around the front, and rotate your work 180 degrees. And put 3 more single crochets in that same space. Now we're going to join to the first single crochet. And there's your second one. Now you're just going to repeat that until you have as many leaves as you need, but you can, if you want, and you don't have to because it looks good either way, you can make your leaves leaning more to the left or more to the right, and you do that by putting more single crochets on one side of the stem or the other. So let me show you what that looks like. So in between each leaf you're going to chain 4, and this time we're going to make the leaf lean to the left. So we're going to put 4 single crochets on this side and then 2 on the other, and I'll show you what happens. So in the second chain from the hook, we're going to put 4 single crochets in this one stitch. Then we're going to bring the yarn around the front, rotate 180 degrees, and put the last 2 stitches here. And then slip stitch to the first single crochet to join. And now if you look, it leans more that way. Let's do the other way. So we're going to chain 4. Now this time we're going to put 2 single crochets on this side and 4 on the other. So in the second chain from the hook, let's put 2 single crochets over here. Bring our yarn around the front, rotate our work 180 degrees. Go back into that same stitch and add 4 more single crochets. All in all, we're still going to have a total of 6 single crochets. And then join to the first single crochet. And now, you'll see it's leaning the other way. Look at that. And so you can do that and kind of stagger them and interchange them and do whatever you'd like to do to make it look, you know, either as uniform or as random as you want it to. It really doesn't matter. You can just stick to the generic, 3 on each side, and it still looks great. So second chain from the hook, I'm going to put 3 single crochets on one side of the stem. Bring the yarn around the front, rotate my work, and put 3 single crochets on the other side of the stem. Now when you get done making all the leaves you want, in this case I'm making a strand with 5 leaves, you're going to end with simply chain 5 and then cut, leaving yourself about a 6 to 8 inch tail. And you're going to want to make about 9 or 10 of these. I like to make 10. I like to make 2 with 3 leaves, 2 with 4 leaves, 2 with 5 leaves, 2 with 6 leaves, and 2 with 7 leaves. And sometimes I change it up a little bit. I'll make like 1 with 7 leaves and 3 with 5 or something, you know, whatever. But, and here in this example, I've made a combination of light and dark green. I really love the combination of the two. I wouldn't normally go longer with 7 leaves. I think 7 leaves is long enough, but you can if you want. And I wouldn't go shorter than 3. You can make it literally however you want. But I do 2 of each, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 leaves. Once you get all of your leaves done, we can move on to the dirt. Now, if you've seen the other videos, this gets kind of redundant. And so you can skip ahead to the basket part because it's all done exactly the same way. If you haven't, I will show you that next. So let's make some dirt. For the dirt, I'm going to be using dark brown yarn. This is Coffee by Red Heart, I believe. And I'm going to start with a magic ring. If you don't know how to do a magic ring, the way I do it, there might be an easier way to do it, but the way I do it is I hold the yarn in my left hand and I make an X with over 2 fingers, going away from my hand, then around and towards. That way, when I have this X in my hand, the yarn on top is leaning this way. I go under the bottom one, so under this first one, and draw up a loop with the second one. And then grab that top loop again and make like a chain 1. And that creates a magic ring. So you're going to make a magic ring and then chain 2. And we're going to put 9 double crochets into this ring. But do not cinch your ring shut. Just work the 9 in. Now we are going to cinch this, but only to about fingertip size. So leave a space enough for your fingertip to get through. Fold the ends together so that they can meet, so that you can slip stitch to the top of your chain to join. And I know it's kind of hard to see because it's dark yarn, so I apologize. It's going to kind of bowl or cup up or whatever you want to call that, and that's okay. Now you're going to chain 2 and starting in the next stitch, put 2 double crochets in each stitch until you get back to that first one. You can chain 3 if you want to. I do a chain 2 to count as my first double crochet because that's just the way I crochet, but a lot of people do chain 3, and if you do chain 3, that's okay. But because that chain 2 that I did at the beginning counts as the first double crochet, when I get back to the beginning, I'm not going to put 2 double crochet in that last stitch. I'm actually just going to put 1 in there and join to the top of the chain 2. You see here, this is the last stitch where I'm going to put 2 double crochet, and then I've got what looks like 1 more stitch here, but this 1 more stitch is joined to the chain 2. So I'm only going to put 1 double crochet in there and then join to the top of my chain 2. And if I did this right, I'll have 20 stitches around. Now the next couple rows will be easy, chain 2 or 3, whichever you prefer, and just put 1 double crochet in each stitch around. I love listening to the sound of the birds. And the beautiful sound of children's laughter and complaining. And then when we get back to the beginning, remember that this last stitch here is joined to that chain 2. So we're not going to work a double crochet in that stitch, we'll just join. So then we're going to chain 2 and do this again. 1 double crochet in each stitch. And again, not working in that last one because the chain 2 counts as our first double crochet. We're going to join chain 2 and double crochet around one more time. So 3 total rows of just double crocheting around. Now when you get back to the beginning, slip stitch to the top of your chain 2 to join, pull a big loop, because now we're going to stuff it. So at this point, get all of your strands that you made, and you want to line them up so that all of the ends are even. And this is where it benefits having a bigger hook. This does make it easier. We're going to insert our hook, our jumbo hook, from the inside to the outside, because obviously we want our leaves on the outside. And we're going to hook all that yarn and draw it in through that hole in the middle in the beginning. Like that. At this point, I usually invert the work completely. It makes doing this part easier. And I pull all of these ends in until I just start to see all of the little crocheted ends popping through. If there's one that it's not, I pull on the individual strands until I get all of them visible, because you don't want strings hanging out. Once you got them all in and even, cinch your yarn, the brown yarn for the magic ring. Cinch it as closed as you can. You want to pull it firm and tight, but you don't want to pull it so tight you pop the yarn. I've done that before. It's very sad. And at this point, we're going to take all these tails and tie a knot. And the way I like to do that is grab it with 2 fingers, twist, and then fish the tails between those 2 fingers and pull that loop over. It's a very, very simple basic knot. And I push down on the ends as I pull the tail so that it puts the knot right up against the soil. Just like that. That will not come out. Not. I'm going to flip it back out the right way. Just tuck all those tails in. They can be a little cumbersome sometimes. If they bother you enough, you can trim them. You don't have to, though. I just let them be part of the stuffing. And then I'm going to grab my hook, go back into this loop, cinch it back down, and we are ready to continue on. So, chain 2, double crochet in the first stitch, and you are going to do double crochet 2 together all the way around, and when we join, we're going to be joining to the top of this double crochet, not our chain 2. So to double crochet 2 together is really simple. You do the first half of a double crochet in one stitch, the first half of a double crochet in the next stitch, yarn over and pull through everything. So just keep doing that until you get back to the beginning, and be careful that when you go to pull up a loop that you don't accidentally go into a stitch you already worked. I do that by accident sometimes, and then I'll wonder why I've got one oddball stitch left when I get to the end, and I'm like, oh, I see. So just be careful you don't do that. And just double crochet 2 together until you get back around to the beginning. See, we got one more to do. Go into this one and into this one. And we're going to join to the, my fingernail is snagging. Hold on a second. Something I always keep in my crochet bag is a nail file, because the worst thing in the world, in my opinion, is trying to crochet and you have like a tiny snag in your nail that just keeps catching the yarn, and that was what was happening to me, so sorry. So we're going to join to the top of the first double crochet. Now in my instructions I say wait to join until after you stuff. You can, you don't have to. It does make it easier to stuff. When you cut and tie your yarn, leave yourself like a 4-inch tail, long enough that you can thread in the ends to cinch it shut. But you can stuff it before or after, but we do need to stuff it now nonetheless. And for this, you really do not need a lot of stuffing. This is not a lot of stuffing at all. You just want it to hold its basic shape. You can cut a longer tail and make it so that you can cinch it shut but open it back up if you want, and that way you could stuff this with like potpourri or something. You know, that's up to you. Once you get it stuffed, we're going to work into each of these stitches. It doesn't matter if you're going outside to in or inside to out. You just want to go the same way each time. And just draw your yarn through each stitch. So I'm inserting my hook outside to in and drawing the yarn inside to out in each of these stitches around. Till I get back around to where I started, and then pull it shut. And at this point I usually just tie a knot underneath one of the stitches or something. I just kind of pick a random spot, and whoops, I pulled some polyfill up. Don't really much care, to be honest, because this goes on the bottom anyways, but tie a knot. And then this also doesn't entirely matter because again it goes on the bottom, but you can fish your tail in if you want. Get in there, polyfill. And there's your plant. So now we're ready to work on the basket. Now for the basket, I'm using this tan yarn, and this we're going to start with just a very simple slip knot. And then chain 3. And in the third chain from the hook, which is the first chain you made, we're going to put 9 double crochets there. And yes, I know that one double crochet was kind of ugly. I can be a sloppy crocheter sometimes. So once you get 9 double crochets in there, you're going to join to the top of your chain 3. Now we're going to chain 2, and just like with the dirt, we're going to start in the next stitch and put 2 double crochets in each stitch till we get around to the same stitch that our chain 2 is in. Put 1 double crochet in that stitch and join. So 2 double crochets in each stitch around. And then when we get back to where we had started, this stitch is attached to the chain 2. We're going to put 1 double crochet in there and join to the top of the chain 2. Again, if you want to do chain 3, that's okay. Now for this next row, we're going to chain 2 and turn. All the chain 2s from this point out do not count as the first double crochet, which means that when we're working around, we have 20 stitches at this point, so we'll be double crocheting 20 times from here on out. And we're going to work this row in what's called the bottom loop. So if you look at the top, when you're normally crocheting, you're working under these top 2 loops, the front and back loop, which are the top 2 loops. You're going to be working through this bottom loop running along the bottom on the underside. And I find the easiest way to grab this loop is to go between the posts with my hook facing up and kind of grab it like that. But those are the loops you're going to be working into. So going into this first one here, so between the chain 2 and the first double crochet, we're going to reach in between, grab that bottom loop, and work a double crochet in the bottom loop. So again, here's the top 2 loops, that's the bottom loop. We're going to go in between and grab just that bottom loop and double crochet. Grab just the bottom loop, double crochet. Just the bottom loop, double crochet. And you're going to double crochet in each of the bottom loops. And it's a good idea to count and make sure that excluding your chain 2 that you've got 20 stitches around, and when you confirm that you do, join to the top of your first double crochet, not the top of the chain 2. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn. Again, the chain 2s do not count as the first stitch from here on out. And we're going to start doing the basket weave stitch, which is a series of front and back post double crochets. So for this row, we're going to begin with a front post double crochet. So we're going to grab this post of the first stitch from the front and work a double crochet. Then the next stitch, we're going to grab the post from the back and work a double crochet. My kids are hollering. For the next stitch, we're going to grab the post from the front and do a front post double crochet. For the next stitch, we're going to go to the back, and we're going to keep repeating front post, back post, front post, back post until we get back to the beginning. And since we have an even number of stitches, if you began with a front post like we did, you should end with a back post. Now we're getting back to the beginning again. We do not count the chain 2 as anything, so you'll see it looks like there's 2 stitches left, but that's the chain 2. So this last one is going to be a back post double crochet, and that's it. We're going to join to our first stitch, which is this front post double crochet. We're not going to join to the chain 2. Now for the next row, we're going to work back post double crochets where we worked front post double crochets, and front post double crochets where we worked back post double crochets, which means we're starting with a back post and ending with a front post. So this can get kind of weird and hard to get used to, but you're going to back post double crochet where you did the front post where you did the back post, and keep switching back and forth between front post and back post. One thing I find helpful, because the front post double crochet ain't too bad. I find that kind of easy, but the back post can get kind of tricky. So what I find helpful is to go, you know, reach and grab the yarn and then bring the hook down, almost facing back when I'm doing those back post double crochets, because it can be snaggy if you don't. So I kind of face the hook down and back. And we got our front post double crochet. My yarn is slowly encroaching into my space. Back post in the front post in the back post. So because we started with a back post, this time we're ending with a front post here. And then we're going to join to the top of the first stitch, which is this back post double crochet right here. Chain 2, and we're just going to repeat that. So this time we're going to be starting with a front post in the back post, and we'll be ending with a back post in the front post. So again, we started with a front post, so we're ending with a back post. And then joining to the first front post double crochet. Now if you find this wearisome, take heart, because we only have to do this for one more row. So again, back post double crochet in the front post, and because we're beginning with a back post, that means we're ending with a front post double crochet. So we're ending with a front post double crochet and joining to the first back post double crochet. Now we've got one more row and then the straps. So for this row, we're going to do something called a reverse single crochet, also known as a crab stitch, and you're simply working a single crochet backwards. So if you're left-handed, you're going to the left. If you're right-handed, you're going to the right. So just go into the stitch before, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through two, just like with a single crochet, but going backwards. And it feels and looks weird, but that feeling and looking weird is what makes it look all twisted and actually give quite this beautiful ornate finish that I think just really complements this basket. It really just gives it that finishing touch to make it look more baskety. That's a word now. Also, in my instructions that are included in the pattern, I tell you to work your straps and then cut, tie, and work your other straps. And in this tutorial, I'm actually going to show you how you can skip the extra cutting and tying and joining and everything and work everything continuously, which I think works up a little bit faster. And you don't have to do it that way. You can literally just chain 30 and just tie those ends on, and that will work too. But I'm going to show you what I do when I'm working on a whole bunch of these and I'm trying to get them done quicker. So when I get to the end, see, I'm back to where I started. I turn my work so the inside of the basket is facing me, and I just sort of grab a spot under one of the posts and slip stitch. And then I immediately start to chain 30. That's how long the straps are going to be. Once you've chained 30, have the other side facing you. Find the center, which is approximately right here. Insert your hook into one of the posts from the row below on the inside and just sort of slip stitch. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch a quarter of the way around the basket so I'm in between the straps so I can work my next strap. But if you want to do this method, it's important that you slip stitch loosely or your basket will cinch up. So I just go underneath these posts and I draw up a loop. And I want it to be a little bit bigger than my hook so it's relaxed. So that the slip stitches are relaxed enough that it's not going to pucker my basket up. And I just kind of slip stitch 5 or 6 times over, however many it takes to get halfway between the straps. So I can work on the next strap. So I just kind of take a look and here's where my straps are. And yeah, that's about halfway. And then I chain 30 again. And then same thing, when I get done with the next chain 30, pull this strap back out of the way, find the halfway point, I kind of fold it in half, find the center of the other side, the inside of the basket, go underneath a post in there, and just join with a slip stitch. And then what I do is I usually slip stitch over once, just to kind of secure that, and then chain 1, cut, and tie. I don't leave a super long tail, leave just a long enough tail that you can fish in your ends. So anyways, there's your basket. So you just grab your plant and stuff it in the basket. Try to stuff it in so that the stems are centered in the basket. This is where I tend to get a little bit obsessive. And that's it. Another thing you can do is actually tuck these straps in and then stuff your plant on top if you want this to be something that you can just sit on a desk or something or on a shelf. And so that's all there is to it. You can make this with a variegated green yarn. You can make this with just dark green, light green, obviously, or an intermix like I did. And then you can hang this up in your car on a garment hook, or get an S hook and hang it from one of your oh crap handles, or suction cup it to one of the back windows. Just make sure if you hang this up in your car, just make sure it's not obstructing your visibility so you can drive safe. And it's not recommended for the rearview mirror because that's illegal in most places, and I don't want anybody to get in trouble, so don't do that. So I hope you found this tutorial clear and understandable, and if you have any questions, confusion, concerns, etc., just put them in the comments below and I would love to try to help you. Everybody have a blessed day. Almost kind of looks like a monster out of those like really old sci-fi movies. Bleh, it's coming out of the sea to eat you. I have problems.